All right. According to StreamYard, I am live, but it usually takes about 5 or 6 seconds for YouTube and StreamYard to start talking to each other. So I'm going to waste time. I really need an intro video so I can just play that while I'm waiting for everything to come out, and do that. So, here we go. Everything's syncing. Everything's doing the things that it's supposed to do. So welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. Uh, I'm your host, Ed Rabyd, a former pastor turned atheist, now compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to the stream. Uh, while everybody's kind of coming in and people who watch that later, I'll give a few announcements. I am going to probably stream every Saturday. It's just an easier time, and I think I need a weekend stream to kind of. A lot of you work all week long, and so getting to the weekday streams is difficult. So I'm going to let you have a Saturday stream. So there's that. But I think I'm also going to cancel the Monday stream, the Stoic Atheist, for a while until I decide what I want to do with it and revamp it a little bit. So there'll be 3 streams every week: Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Saturday will be a hat reveal, assuming how well the super chats go during the week. So I will always. So just. So there's that. But let's do a roll call real quick while we're waiting. I think Rumor was here early commenting about what Frank Turek thinks. And yes, Saturdays will always be like a video reaction, me reacting to a video in my former pastor / theologian / Christian mindset, and then hearing it up. So there's that. Let's see. Fred here early, but not first this time. See, we have the cranky elder god is high in the corner. Somebody needs to do some artwork for this. I don't know. I'll have to ask Earl about it, doing art of some of the names. But having a chat room with all of you in it, visually represented, would be hilarious. So that's the kind of art I'm into. Hey, Lisa, welcome. I know the unfortunate thing is Fangs doesn't show up on StreamYard, and it makes me sad. So it makes me very sad. John from Holland. Alex is here. Wolf is here. Martin is here. I also want to comment, membership is way up. So I had somebody become a Tribune today. So Triple E is now a Tribune of the channel. So he has moderator powers too. So been a good week. Going to get back to videos here shortly, I hope. I'm trying to just find a way to schedule myself. But today we're going to react to something that Frank put out about 11 days ago. He put out a short video about what you worship as God. And this video, though, has his commentary on that short at the beginning. So it's 2 parts. The first part is Frank commenting himself about the video, and he reveals a couple things in that. So we'll see some things that we don't see in the video there, and some of his motivations behind this video. And I think that's important to understand what his motivations are. But then we'll go into the short video himself, because he plays the short video after he talks about it. So that's what the video is tonight. So yes, yes, atheist worldview. I was going to react to his book. I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, but I couldn't get past the introduction where he defines atheism as religious secularism. And I'm like, no, Frank, that's just wrong. Wrong in every way. So, so there's that. So I'm not expecting anything better, Martin. I really am not. I've watched this once, and it's an argument I've heard from theists many times, and it probably comes from Frank and a few others that are big time ones. We had this discussion earlier in this stream before I got on, where Cranky Elder God said, is it just me, or is the mainstream excusiatus mitigating toward precept? And my answer is yes. And I think it's because it's actually the most effective thing to keeping people in the pews. It ain't about convincing atheists, because presuppositionalism will never convince anybody of anything. Okay. It starts from the assumption I'm right and you have to prove me wrong. Okay. Which is an arrogant philosophical position to take. Um, so, it's like it starts from ego and arrogance and works its way downwards. So, but I'm gonna bring in Frank here. This is from Cross Examined, um, at his channel, and so he, like I said, the first part is him talking about the short video that they released separately, and then they're going to play the short video again. So we're going to get a double whammy here in one video, and the whole thing's only 3 minutes long. So, but you know me, it takes me forever to comment on anything. So, because there's so much to unpack in the mentality of apologists. So here we go.
Man, everybody worships something, either.
Okay, one sentence and I got to stop. Everybody worships something. All right, chat, is that true? Because I don't think I worship anything anymore. I think I'm done with that. The assertion that right out the gate, like everybody worships something. Um, uh, yes, false dichotomy. I wanted to say it immediately. It's like you're saying that I'm going to work. You're also kind of predicting where he's going to go too, because Frank is famous for this. He puts people in a false dichotomy stuff all the time, and he has a tendency to always kind of think in very black and white terms. It's what makes him, a bunch of things. And he doesn't seem to realize that there's other alternatives. Angela Jolie, well, that's a valid deity. So is a cranky elder god, I guess. I mean, I can't expect much from the cranky elder god other than to be driven mad and killed. But given the alternative of living in this world with Frank Turek, so we all worship Cranky. I don't know if I worship Cranky. And I don't know if Cranky expects worship. Do you expect worship, Cranky? I mean, do you? I mean, do you expect worship, or would you just like to be respected enough to be left alone? Okay, just leave me the hell alone as a god. Okay, so uh, some people will be worshiping their porcelain. Oh yeah, you might need a drink for this one. Rains taste the same either way. Okay, fair enough. There we go. Now we have the answer from Crank. He doesn't. I don't think he expects worship. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. No other gods before me. Yeah, he's going to go down that road, Ronald. You've been a Christian long enough to know where he's going with this. This isn't just about he's not trying to convince atheists at all with this argument, by the way. His real thing, he's about to say his real motivation in a couple seconds. So I think I'm going to keep playing him. But yeah, it's a false dichotomy out the gate. So here we go. But let's listen to what his motivation for making this video was.
The creation or the creator. And this is a real convicting one for me, and I think maybe for many people watching, because none of us worship God completely. None of us always have God at the top of our priority list. There's always something that can crowd God out, and that's what we call an idol.
Okay. So this is one of the tactics that apologists give to preachers everywhere, which is the idea that nobody worships God like they're supposed to. Okay, that if this whole idea of you shall have no other gods before me, don't make graven images, all this stuff is all about not having, mentally speaking, not having any other devotion than God. Okay, and so his motivation, he's not trying to convince anybody outside of his sphere, because as we pointed out, he starts with a false dichotomy of you're either going to worship God or worship something else. Okay, so he's already wrong out the gate because he doesn't even consider the alternative of a person not worshiping anything at all. Like, it's not worship. I mean, the idea of worship means adoration. It means, there's more to it than just putting it top of your priority list. Okay, there's more to worship than that. I mean, setting proper priorities is just a human thing. So, so yeah, it's yes, but put God first. Yeah, money, maybe. Yes, welcome to human existence, Frank. Yes, agreed. Unfortunately, agreed. Bacon is I don't know. It's the only thing that makes me want to believe in sin again. So, uh, yeah, he's very much wrong on a lot of levels. He's I don't know. This is this is something as I look at my life as a preacher that I did often. When you're preaching and listen to any sermon, and you'll see this a little bit somewhere. I think pretty much 90% of the time is trying to get people to reorganize their priorities towards church, service of God, obeying the commandments. This idea of you're either worshiping God or you're worshiping something else is kind of a Christian trope as far as discipleship too, of trying to, how do I prioritize God? And then you give all these devotional techniques. You give, come to church every day, make sure you're tithing every week, do all the things that are devoted, and then you can demonstrate that you're putting God first. And so this is I'm glad he put this early part in, because every time I see a short video, I always wonder what the motivation is. And now I know what Turek's motivation is. This has nothing to do with convincing you or me or any other atheist of, that we're wrong. This has everything to do with challenging the Christian on whether or not they are devoted enough. Okay, whether he's that. He has a golfer's tan. Yeah, probably. Certainly experience worship meant bowing down to respect most of the times. Only recently used for a deity. The Japanese still bow. Okay, I get what you're saying. That's a very broad definition of worship. I think what he's doing, see, this is what Frank does anyway. Like, he will change the definitions of words to fit his argument. Like, he will do this, and you're just expected to accept his definitions without argument. Like, when he defines atheism as a worldview, he does not really, when you argue against that even being a possibility, and I've seen other people do it, he pushes back on that. He refuses to accept it. Okay, that it can't be a worldview, because he's created this straw man of atheism as a worldview so he can keep fighting it. And so he has to have that. But, here he's also created a bad thinking, and creating bad thinking in Christians of thinking, oh my goodness, am I prioritizing God enough? Am I prioritizing God enough compared to my family? There's good things in life, but, we had that. So you can't stand the whole idol thing. Me either. I think somebody remarked that would make the Israelite people would have been very unartsy. Like, there's no artistic expression. And so because of that, you get a bunch of people in your society that are going to be very depressed all the time. So, but that's kind of why most of us deconverted. So guilt sermon. Yes. It's the guilt sermon aspect of it. Are you doing enough for God? Yes. He swaps definitions a lot. Okay. Like, he will use one definition and switch to the other. And it's like, dude, stay in the lane here. But yes, worship is one of those words that has such a multifaceted, usage, and he really should define a little bit better what he means by worship here, because as John from Holland has said, he's it's it has a multifaceted definition. It's been around a lot longer. The current usage isn't the same as it used to be. So yes, no Lane Frank. Yeah. It's like, dude, would you please stay with the definition? Okay, would you please justify your definitions? But he never does that. So, well, I've argued for years that atheism can influence your worldview and it can be a part of it. I don't think whether God exists or not is not something you can build a whole framework around. It can influence stuff, but I don't think it can be a worldview. But that's just me. All right, let's see what Frank else has to say. But I wanted to point that out, that that's his real motivation for this short that he's about to show. So just remember that.
And I think it's really prevalent, particularly in the West, where we experience so many material luxuries that are frankly very, very pleasurable, and we don't want to lose them. We don't want to lose our comfort. And that, of course, can be a problem when we're trying to be disciples. So this is a very convicting one for me. And Keith, I had forgotten how we did this. I when I'm watching this, it was almost like I was watching it for the first time.
Okay, that's very revealing. And one of his producers here, one of the guys that helps work on his videos, is going to explain, like, Frank's always on tour, and so he's never back there. So he's always like sending clips and information and then having other people do his work. So it's kind of revealing on how he does his stuff, which is normal for any content creator that's also touring and doing speeches and stuff like that. So, could be. You have to understand that I would consider Buddhist, some forms of Buddhism or atheism, and there are some atheists that distrust science. So I don't know. Atheists have so many. It's like saying like all Christians are the same. Atheists vary around the horn. I put a lot of stock in scientific discoveries and things like that, and evidentialism too, but there are some that don't. They just dismiss the view of God. They're just not sure about anything else too. So it's a really, so I thought the same thing. Sandals. Is that one of the Ramones? I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed. You're working on the art project for 2 days that I gave you, and I'm not allowed to sign off. Well, I've got a goal going in Super Chat for 2 hours. So how's that sound? But yes, I thought the same thing. I thought the same thing. Did Frank get one of the Ramones to work for him? And where's that Christian haircut? Damn it, Frank. Your people don't have Christian haircuts. So, hey, Azo, good to see you. But yes, so, he talks about how this video is convicting to him because does he prioritize God well enough? See, this is the guilt trip of Christianity with this argument about worship, about you're worshiping something. He doesn't even consider the alternative of, it's possible not to worship anything. Like maybe I shouldn't give this kind of adoration and level of respect to anything. Okay, is that? I have never had long hair. It drives my ears nuts. I think the closest I had was in Bible college where it kind of covered my ears, and that was it. But I've never had anything long. So I've always had a short goatee. This is the first time this has been this long ever. So you guys are doing a first. I would argue it does. There's a lot of evidence about that, but yeah, but it's, I think probably what we're looking for is specifics. Like we can give generalized things that are pretty scientific. So yes, they are very strict. And so wondering how one of the Ramones became one of Frank Turek's staff and didn't have to cut his hair. So I'm still wondering about that. So, but yeah. Um, let's see. Let's go on. Let's see. I want to hear this guy talk because it's rare to get somebody outside of Frank himself yapping in one of his videos. So let's
I was
see.
watching it for the first time.
You were so busy traveling all the time doing things, and I would just, say, what about this? And I'd send you a script, and you would make your edits to it, and then you were gone, and that's why I said you're like working for the invisible man, because you're gone all the time.
Yeah, but
He even talks like he's stuck in the past. Oh, you want to be sedated? I don't know. I mean, the guy that just talked, I mean, dude, not only is there long hair, I'm having suspicions of other habits this guy has. So, I wanted to be an aerospace. If I had not become a pastor, I would have been an aerospace kind of engineer type. And I love that stuff. And yeah, there's a deep dive you can go into with how things fly and why they fly. And there's a lot of technical stuff that they've discovered. So we have to sometimes expect that as human beings. I only have a cursory understanding of a lot of the science, but it's enough. There's more convincing evidence of that than anything religion does. Okay, just if you're just at a general level in any scientific field, there's more evidence presented to you for that than anything religion does, and that's just something I've discovered. So, the whole head covering thing. Some people interpret the head covering thing in Corinthians as, because Paul even says it doesn't tell you that it's a shame for a man to have long hair or something to that effect. And there's like literally a verse in it, and they go down the road with it. So yeah, Samson was the only one that was allowed to have long hair, and he was a Nazarite. It was supposed to be like this distinction thing. The Nazarite wasn't allowed to cut his hair. Like Samson was a Nazarite, so he wasn't allowed to cut his hair. He wasn't allowed to touch dead bodies, and he wasn't allowed to have any fruit of the vine. So no grape juice, no wine, none of that stuff, which I think he violates. The dead body thing he definitely violates when he kills the 100 Philistines or the 1,000 Philistines, and then all of that. So that's so yes, but yeah, he was the only one that could do that, and he did that. I'm not sure what him and Delilah drank, but I'm sure it wasn't. I'm sure it wasn't water. So, but yeah. No, it was just a dedication thing. He just happened to be one of the Nazarites that was a strong man. So, yeah, he killed people with an ass bone. But I'm sorry, if you're in battle with somebody, you're sooner or later they're going to be dead, and you're going to be stepping on them or whatever. So, yeah. Oh, good. That's great, Ronald. Yeah, non-religious ceremonies are great. I like them because it's more honest. Like when I used to do religious ceremonies, I always, for marriages, like, oh, Jesus, what if there's not a God? Then a lot of these vows are just based on air. So I should do like a video on the traditional marriage vows and why they suck. So bad. So you would know love hurts. Yes, it would. Oh man. All right. So we got the idea that Frank was the invisible man from our member of the Ramones here, who may or may not be high. I can't tell. So we'll see. But let's see what else Frank has to say before we actually get into the short. I want to focus on the short video at the end because he shows the whole video. But
that's a real convicting short video, because if God does exist, and he does, he should be our top priority.
Okay, so this is the ultimate claim without evidence. God exists and he should be our ultimate top priority. What if he doesn't give a shit? Okay, I want to deal with the second claim because there's an assumption about the nature of God that he hasn't even bothered to prove, let alone proving God exists in the first place. Okay, so he's yes, Jesus apparently plays golf, and so does Frank. Um, so there's that. But yeah, I don't know. This is the thing that God, if God exists and he does exist, then he should be our number one priority. The logic behind that thinking seems a little bit shaky to me. Because I can't remember the philosophers who said it, but if the gods are malevolent, they shouldn't be worshipped by man because man's better than that. I can't remember who said something like that, but I've always felt that logic was valid because he's not even considering the nature of God. He's just saying if God exists, then he deserves to be our number one priority. What if he doesn't give a shit? What if the deists are right and he doesn't care? Okay, like there's this whole list of Christian theology that's being bundled up here and shoved in here as an assumption that he doesn't even bother to prove. And once again, he's saying this isn't about proving anything. This is about being convicting to Christians. So he's not even trying really to reach anybody for Jesus with this one. He's just trying to say this is real convicting to me because, God should be my number one priority if I'm a Christian and I believe he exists, and he does exist, which is another assertion without evidence. So there's that. But yes, but yeah, I don't, yeah, I caught that too. He says if he exists and he does exist. It's like Frank lives in the inevitable position of having heard a lot of counter arguments to the existence of God. And I can't imagine as a basic human being, he hasn't thought about some of them. And in his quieter, darker moments, thought, they might be right. And he may also be a shill. He might be a con artist, as far as I know, because I don't know him personally. And so there's literally a possibility. A lot of people have pointed this out to me, like, he can't be holding on to these arguments this long, considering he knows the counters and he knows that the counters are valid. So the if might have been a Freudian slip and they let it through. But it's like I don't know, he's this really, there's parts of Frank that really bother me because I know he's heard the good arguments. I know he gets to the point in his lectures sometimes where he says, well, we don't have time to go into that. So meet me at the table. I'll hand you one of my books, kind of thing. And that's usually when I know that Frank has lost the argument. That's when I know. And so there's that. So, yeah, it's been, he does this a lot, and it's like, so, but I still am at a loss as to where the logic comes from. Just because a God exists, why do I owe him my devotion? Why do I owe him my worship? Why does he deserve my number one priority? There's a lot of pagan gods, and I have a cranky elder god who would say, screw that shit. I don't care. Okay. It's like, I'm God. I made this stuff and on a whim, good luck with your existence. Why doesn't he even go down that path? So yes, huge. Yes, big gap there in the logic. Hey, thanks, Ronald. I do believe the Mighty Filbert was the beneficiary of that membership. So congratulations, Mighty, and thank Ronald for that. Appreciate you. Yes, Nazarites. The only three elements of the Nazarite vow were not cutting your hair, not drinking anything involving grapes, and eating anything involving grapes. So no raisins either, and not touching dead bodies. In particular, the connotation is not touching dead human bodies. Like you could still be a Nazarite and be like a butcher, but you weren't allowed to touch like dead bodies of human beings. So weird, but they were allowed to marry, and they were allowed because he has a wife. And the objection isn't that he has a wife. The objection is, why are you taking wives from the Philistines instead of from your own tribe? That's the objection. So I do believe they were allowed to marry. So I kind of think people who are outside of the Bible, God's land, and don't interact with God as people are the most safe. That's probably true. You don't like his glasses? Oh, yeah. I mean, I think some people, like, there's still some sincere pastors that believe what they believe. I know I was one for a while, so I can't assume I was the only one. Um, but a lot of them, I'm going to tell you right now, John, there's a lot of people that get in the pulpit and know it's bullshit, but it's their living, it's their career. So that aspect of it always will remain for me. So, but yeah, you gotta realize that some of these pastors are caught in the pulpit. I think it was Daniel Dennett who wrote that book, Caught in the Pulpit, and he had help from another psychologist, and they were analyzing people who were joining the clergy project at the time, and which I think I don't know. I have to look it up. I know we passed another milestone moment in the clergy project, I think. But at the time I went through it, we had just passed 1,000 ministers. And these are just the ones that are willing to come forward and get help from the clergy project, okay? Of people who are like, I'm in the pulpit and I don't believe this shit anymore. What do I do? Okay, so there's a lot of that. So I don't know if he has a theist hat. I have many hats now, thanks to all of you. I've got one sitting here next to me, but we're still 4 super chats away from that coming out and going on my head. So yeah, God's people are quite arrogant. There's an assumption that you know God, that God's your friend. Um, there's a lot in Christianity that appeals to the ego and senses of guilt. Like if sin, the whole sin thing and being forgiven is a guilt mechanism, but also God cares enough about you that he can guide your life and make you have a better life and all that shit. That's all part of it too. So there's that. Somebody has to start it. And Fred, we all know you. You love to start things. So that. All right. So he's bemoaning his own guilt about this video that he made it. And he did it at a distance and with the help of one of the Ramones, who may or may not be high. Okay. So, and his motivation has nothing to do with apologetics. So there's that. So let's see what else he's got to say.
So often we let other things crowd that out. But as we mentioned in the video, there are other things are important. But when we put anything else in the place of God, that's where we run into difficulty.
I'm going to pause here, black screen it, I guess. But I don't know that I am sorry. I spent a lot of years in Christianity and I put God first a lot of times. And I'm going to tell you right now that it didn't help any of that problems. I ran into a lot of difficulties even being a Christian. I think no matter what religion you are, life is going to happen. So I don't get the notion that somehow if we prioritize God first, that it leads to better things. And that kind of counters what Jesus said. This is where the contradictory stuff of Christianity comes in, because they'll sit there and say it'll solve all your problems. But if you're following correctly, right? If you're following Christ correctly, according to Jesus, you're going to have enemies. You're going to have people that persecute you. In fact, it's the test of whether or not you're following Jesus, is that you should be having persecution. You should be having stuff going wrong with you. Yeah, I'm supposed to be helping the poor. You know, the funny thing about the past, though, Alex, it was more hospitable. Like hospitality is like a universal religious thing in a lot of respects, a universal human ethic. I consider hospitality to be a virtue. but we don't practice it anymore because we kind of expect everybody to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. And to be honest, that's a very Christian notion. It's actually a very Calvinist Puritan notion of work hard and, support yourself, that kind of thing. You support hat reveals, Martin. So there's 2, 3 more to go. So if you put yourself first, you're selfish, but we always put ourselves first because we're human. Like even when I was a Christian, I noticed like I'm still putting myself first. Okay. I'm still, why am I, why am I there? Sort of thing. Yeah. The South has it as a cultural thing, but it's like I've experienced Southern hospitality and there's a part of it, Earl, I'm going to say is people are watching you when you come over as a guest and not for necessarily hospitality reasons. They're trying to figure out whether you're going to be a welcome friend deserving of the ice cold glass of lemonade or, well, bless their heart. Okay. So, but let's be honest, hospitality in the South has many ulterior motives. I'm just going to say it. Ban me if you want. Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's a judgmental moment. I had 2 places I could go, Earl, where I got the ice cold glass of lemonade, and it was both times it was Southern hospitality, but it was done by Hispanics, so you have to take that for what it's worth. Yes, we have the selfish gene, as Dawkins would have pointed it out. He was right about that, and I don't consider that necessarily, but it's a survival trait. If you want to survive, you have to kind of take care of yourself. So. Yes, this is the contradiction that God does the one, like he makes your life better, but then if you're doing it right, then you're going to suffer persecution. Yes. I'll make sure I'll note that down. Oh, but yes, hospitality in the South has ulterior motives. Trust me. If somebody invites you to their house in the South, understand that it's not about just them being nice to you. They're trying to figure the fuck out who you are, what gossip they can tell about you. If you're single, which person in the neighborhood might match with you. It's a whole thing. So I have no problems removing my shoes before coming into a domicile, just because I do that anyway. So that's like everywhere I go. So, now there are those that would argue that if you take care of yourself, then you're less of a burden to society, but you're always going to need society at the same time. So there's a difference between being selfish and being self-interested. Those are 2 different things to me. So your parents are trash. Yes, I usually look for the coaster too. Besides, if I'm drinking ice cold lemonade in the South, it's probably summer, and so the glass is going to get sweaty anyway, and I'm going to want that to collect somewhere, not on your nice counters. So I try to use some manners, but then at the same time, once I get to know you, the cuss words are probably going to start flowing. So, and I'm pretty sure that's not polite. All right, so Frank's about to show the actual video that they're talking about, but I wanted to show the other part to know their motivations, that they are definitely, this is more about convicting Christians than it is convincing anybody of the faith. Okay, so he's traveling away from his apologetic hat and going to a preacher hat at this point. So, and as a former preacher, I get to judge. That's all you like, don't ruin the furniture. Okay, fair enough.
Everyone is worshiping something. Everyone is something that rises to the top of their priority list. What is it for you?
Okay. Now I'm going to back this up just slightly. Let's see if I can find it. There we go. All right. So he's going to. So once again, we have the assertion that everybody worships something. Now, he does not even bother to consider the possibility that I do not give anything that level of respect. Um, he doesn't. He doesn't even address the possibility of, you know, anything. So have priority equals worship. Yeah, that's kind of the problem I'm having, BS. It really is the kind of problem I'm having with this presentation, because your priorities are constantly shifting depending on what the need is. Like, I'm sorry, if I'm hungry, I don't, my family suddenly drops below that priority and I go get a sandwich. It's like, if I'm thirsty, I go get a drink. Like, your priorities that you're doing at that moment are constantly shifting and everything. And you can talk about the bigger priorities, but it's like I spend a lot of time just dealing with my own personal survival, and I don't think that's a bad priority to have. Okay. I don't think it's a bad priority for anybody to have. But yes, I disagree with the idea of priorities being worship. Like, if I prioritize something, I mean, this hits home for me a lot because I believe that the downfall of my marriage was all about priorities. Like, I'm trying to prioritize. After I became an atheist and left the church, I was trying to prioritize in our marriage, our relationship, the two of us. Uh, my kids and grandkids were in there, but I wanted to put our relationship and our marriage at number one. And the problem is, my still believing spouse didn't want to do that. And then she had her own priorities of putting her kids and grandkids ahead of me all the time. But then I look back at it, I'm like, well, that makes sense. Like, if one of the grandkids goes into the hospital, guess what my priority is? It's going to shift to that. Okay. And I think that's the problem I have always had with this Christian argument is our priorities are constantly shifting depending on the situation. Okay. And so I don't see how, I mean, there's certain things I want to keep coming back to more than others, I suppose, but I don't get the logic here at all anymore. And maybe I've been out of it. So no, I don't have, so there's, yeah, we have to just, okay. All right. All right. All right. Hold on, folks. But we'll get back to Frank here in a second. All right. So as soon as you, so there's that, but yeah. All right. But yeah, the priority thing has always bothered me. Like, it's like I live my life and I shift. That's just life. So, so there's that. Hey, Randy. Been a while. Yeah, like me and BS are asking the same question. You're everywhere and nowhere. Okay, popping in there. All right, there we go. All right, let me just giggle feel. Oh. Each person works 2 jobs. Okay, there you go. Keep busy. Oh, yes. But so Frank has already hit this angle, and I want to thank BS. Trust me, BS, I understand poor. I do. Work gets in the way of your hobbies, getting high and watching YouTube. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. I'll let it go. Not that I had anything to let go anyway, but so he's got his little list here. Question: what's in it for you? What's in it for me? What's in it for them? So it's like we're always asking these questions, and it's like, welcome to life, Frank. Every time I see him do this, it's like, this is life. Yes, that also works too. Having two bathrooms in the house and each of you uses a different one. Fair point. Great struggle happens when you have to share. So it's great struggle. So no whisker hair bliss. So also true of no leg hair in the shower too, but we won't go into that. All right.
Is it your job, your family, financial security, prestige, notoriety, material possessions, fame, or perhaps another person? What is it? What is
Okay. Now I can talk about all of these priorities, and I've already mentioned that it's constantly shifting. Like my family will be a priority if that's what I'm focused on. Uh, Notoriety, whatever. Some of those aren't on my priority list very often. But when you got all these things that he's listing out, your job, your career. Like sometimes my job and career has to be the focus because it's necessary to keep doing what I'm doing. Um, Sometimes it's making sure the way where I'm living. I live in an apartment right now, so it's like keeping the apartment up, keeping my landlord happy so he doesn't kick me out. Uh, it depends on how long you wait in between, Earl. Especially springtime now, because it's 50 some degrees and women suddenly have to go outside in their shorts again soon. And suddenly it's a concern. So, see, this tells me you're a Southerner, okay? Because the girls up here, when it's long pants season, when there's snow and ice on the ground, nope. Nothing gets shaved when you're wearing clothes all the time. So, yeah. Yes, food is a priority. I mean, name something that at some point in your life, some point during the day, it's going to become your priority, Alex. I'm like, you got to eat, you got to sleep, you got to do all those things, although I question sleep for me sometimes, but it's, it's this idea that there's something there that is your number one priority, but he lists a whole bunch that you could constantly be shifting from, like family and money. People go to work, and that means they give up the opportunity. This is basic economics here of the opportunity cost. The opportunity cost is if I go to work, I don't get to spend time with my family. If I'm spending time with my family, I'm not working and making money. This is the game that human beings play all the time. Okay, it is a natural, normal human thing to do, to constantly shift your priorities and everything else. But what Frank is doing here is he's like, all of that needs to be subservient to something else, namely God. Now, I am going to point something else about all these needs. I can demonstrate that all these needs and wants exist. Okay, so there's that. Yes, because when you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that shifts your priorities. Like if you suddenly, like you're taking an airplane trip and it suddenly becomes Castaway, your priority of survival is going to shift past the fact that your flight is going to be late. Okay. It's like there's no understanding of the fact that as the situation shifts, your priorities are going to necessarily change. And Frank and Christians and everybody who wants to promote this idea that worship of God has to be your number one priority all the time don't want a theme to think that. Okay. I mean, people that focus on religion and are religious people and have a lot of time dedicated don't realize how, privileged they are to have all their other needs met so that they can do that. Okay. So, yeah, you got to watch. Asho makes a valid observation, Earl. You got to watch what you say around here. So, uh, Yes, fasting is good for you. I think I've made a video about how some of the spiritual disciplines have validity. I have a whole series of that, but you don't shave eggs anymore. I just fuck everything and worry about the afterlife. Yes, that's what he's saying. This is my problem with this whole argument and reasoning now from Christian point of view. It's like your priorities are never going to be the same, 1 minute from the next. Okay, we're constantly dealing with this shifting stuff. So, yes, got to take a shower now and then for your own sake. You know, I wish I could give this advice to a lot of the customers that come to Walmart, by the way. Um, I don't know, me and my daughter have an agreement, having both worked at Walmart. Like, if you come showing up to Walmart in pajama pants and smelling like you haven't showered in 3 days, yeah, I got a problem with that. So, yeah, I agreed. Short term, I do that every once in a while, actually. So, well, this is why they create doctrines like tithing. Okay, like if you lose your job, okay, Alex, you lose your job. Okay, the church still wants you to give 10% of your money, whatever it is, afterwards. Okay, like if you start getting an unemployment check, they still want 10% of that. Okay, and so they fixate on you to tithe no matter what. And they will say, even in your darkest times, that's when you really need to tithe so God will get you out of it. There's lots of ways religion tries to bypass your needs of what you need to do in order to do what's in their best interests as a religion. Okay, and that's all religions, by the way. I'm not even picking on some, but yeah, that would be nice. They never have the doctrine, if you haven't noticed. No religion has the doctrine of we're going to generate money to pay off people's debts. That doesn't work, apparently. Yeah, maybe. Let me, yeah. Yes, you have to work to hold a job, build wealth, make a living. You have to have kids. They are your priority. Yeah, and that's the real issue here I'm having is like, am I supposed to suspend all of that to do what? To do what exactly? Uh, yes, he never has direct power to fund his church. I've made that argument to preachers since I've left the faith. A couple of them have gotten on here over the years, and I've said, listen, your God supposedly owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. Have him kill one, to give money to his church. Hey, Michael, welcome. I think I've got my pretty much represented international crowd today. I know I have my Aussies and my Swede and now my German, and so this is an international atheist channel. I just want to let you know that. So, but let's see where he's going to go. So we've skipped out all the priorities in this short. So what should be our priority, Frank? Why don't you tell us? I think I already know, but let's hear.
The one thing that rises to the top of your priority list. In other words, what are you worshiping?
Okay. The one thing, there's an assumption that there's one thing that rises to my priority list. That's the first assumption that I think is bogus. Because once again, what rises to the top often depends on what you need or what you want at the time. So it's not always the same. Like breathing. Yeah, so breathing, it's an interesting observation because Aaron Ra, as sometimes biblically poor he can be, he does make one reference that is probably true, like breath and spirit are all like an idea in the Old Testament. So the breath of God. That's actually a valid observation that he made. And I listened to that and I said, yeah, he's kind of right about that. But yes, so the idea of worshiping and breathing might be interconnected in the Old Testament, B.S. Lewis, that every breath you take, every move you make, kind of thing. So that, God's watching. And so there's this idea of God being involved in every breath you take. How many times have people said that in a sermon where they're like, every breath you get is a gift from God. Every heartbeat is a gift from God. Every time you get to live and move another day, that's a gift from God. So it's all giving it all back. One of the most ridiculous definitions of worship is the one Paul says that, giving God everything is your most reasonable act of worship. And the mindset that sets in Christians is like, it interrupts proper priorities. Okay, it does. So, yes, prioritizing is not worship. Okay, but he thinks it is. Okay, this is, once again, we've talked about this already, Fred. Frank likes to change the definitions of words. He really does. So, so there's that. Damn Sting to help this song. Oh, Sting. Oh, my goodness. The good old days of pop music. I do miss the Police, though. They had good songs. I think Sting went downhill after he, as evidenced by the fact he wasn't as successful as he was with the Police. So there's always that egotistical drive of the lead singer that says, I will be better if I leave. And yeah, not really. Yeah. At least Freddie Mercury had the sense to come back to Queen. So, so Ramadan? I don't know. All the fasting thing? No. I just know that the idea of getting rid of junk out of your system for like 12 hours and just drinking a lot of water is actually helpful. I've done it several times and it makes me feel better every time I do it. And then you start to eat and it's good. I think religion hooks into things that are actually beneficial and then overdoes them. Like fasting is one of those things. Self-talk is another, but they call it prayer. Down centering your mind and clearing your thoughts. Meditation, what meditation does is not a bad thing necessarily. So, yeah, he broke up the band, didn't he? Poor Jesus. He left and the whole thing went to shit. The con continued, the con part of it, but the rest of it, holy damn. So, this is one of his produced videos, Dragon Rider. One of his produced videos, and we just saw one of his persons that does his graphics. Like, this didn't just go through Frank. This went through a team of people, and they missed it. So, we got art. We got new art. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy! I'm excited. I'm looking at it and I'm laughing. I gotta copy this over. Actually, I gotta save it. Oh my goodness, you guys are gonna love this one. But Frank is definitely making an assumption about what worship is. So I think that's hilarious. There we go. I'll come back to Frank, but I have to introduce you to it's coming through. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Earl, you've outdone yourself. This is our representation of Mormonism, by the way, just so you know. Oh my goodness. The cute little onions. Oh, Earl. Yes, definitely take your bow, girl. Oh my goodness. Oh. Oh, you even got the Mormon tie and white shirt on the dad and the dresses on the wives. Oh my goodness. This is just awesome, Earl. This is just, oh my goodness. Oh, this is what you can have when you come here often. Support the channel. I will have Earl do stuff like this. I told her not to worry about turning it into emoji. We'll worry about that later. I said, I just want the artwork. So we'll figure out a way, but oh my goodness, that is hilarious. Oh, the binkies are hilarious. Oh, yeah, submitting his money. Oh my gosh. So many binkies. Yes. Oh. Yes, this is what I was thinking too. Whoops, I only ate one. Oh my goodness. Oh, the layers. The crying baby, definitely. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think the crying baby onion will make a great emoji. I think we'll do that. That's a good one for Mormonism. Just, oh my God. Oh, yeah, that's the only thing that's missing. The magic underwear is underneath. We're not going to do a porn version. So, a Mormon porn version, I should say. When you're religious, what constitutes porn is kind of low. So. Yes, Earl's having a crisis moment about the Mormon underwear. I could see that. Cringe. Yes. But well done, Earl. Well done. Oh my goodness. Oh, you gave me exactly what I asked for too. That was just and I do think Fangs' look on his face is perfect. It's really like, oops, I ate one of these onions and it was one of your brothers or sisters or something. So he has that look of, oops. Sorry. Oh my goodness. Yes, this is amazing, Earl. This is very, very well done. Oh my goodness. Oh, I almost don't want to get back to Frank, but he's funny too. But yes. All right. Well, I will take that down for now. I'll show it up at the end again. Definitely want to comment on that, but I got it downloaded. So, but we'll go back to Frank here reluctantly. But yeah, what am I worshiping? I want to get back to that. I don't know. Maybe I found a piece of art that'll work. Yeah, the big smile on that guy. Yeah, I mean, it's like, let's be honest about traditional biblical polygamy. The guy's going to be happy. I mean, this patriarchal thing that's happy. Now, I think all the smiles and stuff would go away if there was 3 men and 3 girls there, because now it becomes work. So, probably Mormons. I'm actually at 16, so we lost a few, but yeah. Oh, you know what? Don't kill yourself, Earl. I appreciate the artwork, but as I've said to you before, I want you to be in your creative zone and not. I know sometimes the deadline and the rush helps with that. It helps me, but yeah, just that was beautiful. It was beautiful. I'm going to show it again at the end too. But man, oh man, I don't know. It makes me inspired to start Merc, because that would be hilarious on something like a cup or something. The Rabyd Atheist logo at the bottom. So, but all right, as reluctantly as I want to do, let's finish up Frank here. This might take a little longer. So, Oh my God. Yeah, sometimes that's the case too. Browsers need to be reset from time to time. I have to do it myself when I'm streaming. Like the YouTube one I have off to the side, I can't always see what's going on YouTube wise. I know there's like a 3 second delay. So that's why I tell people to, when you come into the stream, if I let people in, switch to that because then you get a live conversation. If you try to do YouTube, you'll be delayed. So, but yeah, that's also a possibility. But I can see a bunch of Mormons coming here and getting offended. Well, that's good. That's good. I want you to be there. If you're ever out of your zone, Earl, let me know, and I will tell you to calm down, chill out, and go do something that makes you happy. So there's that.
It seems to me there's only two categories of things you can worship: something that is transcendent or something that is not.
Okay, category error. Okay. Holy shit. Well, see, here's the thing, Frank, with the transcendent. Can you prove that the transcendent actually exists to be worshipped in the first place? And then, whatever the transcendent is, can you prove specifically what it is? I mean, even if you could, in general, prove the transcendent's existence, it doesn't imply that it's your God or your way of doing things. That's a huge, huge false dichotomy, Frank, and a category error. Like, how do you know that anything transcendent exists? Okay, it's like you haven't proven that. The thing about all the other priorities you mentioned, I can prove that they actually exist. The transcendent God, not so much. So, yes, this is the point. Okay, I'm trying to make. What the hell are you talking about? Okay, because he's rushing down this conclusion that he hasn't even proven that the conclusion is even there. Like, prove a transcendent God exists, Frank. So I I don't I don't ever get this when he does this. It's like, dude, and Christians do this too. Preachers will do this. The false dichotomy is just inherent in religion, I think. Like, it's either or, and it's like I can think of 12 different possibilities here. Why aren't we talking about them? Um, why don't we conclude that maybe priorities shift depending on the situation? And you know, there's no way that I can actually put something number one on my priority all the way. But like you're dead on. What the hell are you talking about, Frank? Okay, like you've jumped to this conclusion and you haven't even proven that the transcendent even exists, but you're just it's why I wanted to talk about his motivation at the beginning. This is not this is not evangelism at this point. This is preaching to the choir. Okay? Like, you need to have this conviction that you're not putting God first. But it's like priorities constantly shift based on the situation. I'm sorry, no matter how much God you have in your life, if you're starving, food is going to push that priority aside while you try to find food. Okay, if you're dying of thirst, same. You can pray to God all you want. It's not going to solve your problem. Okay, so I don't know. It's an interesting point to make, Ronald. Yes, I agree there at the end there. I'm not sure what he means by that. What does he mean by transcendent? Okay, he hasn't really do that. There's the other problem. It's like, but if he does define it as, God, something spiritual, then okay, is that what is transcendent? So I don't know. It's uh, yeah, it makes less sense. But here's the thing. You're pointing out the problem with the reasoning. Like, I'm having, Kyle and you and me are all having the same problem. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Okay, you haven't even proven you haven't defined what this is, and you haven't proven that it exists. Yes, what is he transcending from? That's a good question. So there's that aspect of it. So Let's see where he goes.
And if you try and put the material things of this world in the spot reserved for the transcendent being God, you will never achieve true contentment.
Okay, so if I make believe and pretend something exists and put that as my number one priority, I won't achieve contentment. Now, don't get me wrong. The slight bash on materialism is okay with me, but I am fairly certain that Frank has a good golf game. As somebody pointed out, he has a golfer's tan. Um, uh, I'm fairly certain that Frank, given all the money he's made from his books, lives in a nice house, has a nice car. He has the material stuff. Okay, I know he does. He has the ability to travel around the country and peddle his bullshit. So there's a measure of financial success and material success that Frank has achieved. I can see it. The signs are there. All right. And he's done it basically what I consider now basically selling snake oil. Okay. So I don't know. I'm going to push back on the contentment thing too, because as somebody who's deconverted, I am far more content now as an atheist than I ever was as a believer. I'm far more relaxed. Thanks to therapy, I have a better grasp on my problems and dealing with them. I'm much happier that I don't feel like there's this God judging me all the time, that I'm not caught in this loop of what Frank's promoting here, which is, hey, you got to put God first or you're never going to be happy. It's like, no, that doesn't really work for me anymore. I don't see that. So, yeah, transcending to your roof. Yeah. I don't think so. See, that's the problem. He hasn't even proven that even exists. See, this is the real problem that the religious people, and I tell them this all the time whenever they ask and they come here and they go, you got to believe in a God to be moral. You got to believe in a God to be happy. And it's like, which one? Okay. I mean, I'm sorry, if I was going to pick a deity, I'd probably go into Norse mythology because it's much more interesting. And it would make me happy because it's more interesting, and probably make me more contented because the gods of Norse mythology aren't really expecting much out of me. So it's like, it's like, when Odin creates humanity, the rest of the gods, what the hell did you just do? It's like, so it's like, to me, that's a far more reasonable explanation. It's like, I don't see how contentment comes from belief anymore. If anything, doesn't belief kind of indicate that your life isn't content and you need this thing to be contented? I don't understand this anymore. Maybe I've been out too long and the mentality doesn't exist in me anymore, but it's like you're saying, okay, I need to put my faith in something that hasn't been demonstrably proven to be existent in order to be content in life. Every freaking religion can claim that. Every single one. This doesn't make you unique at all. Okay? It makes you on par with every other stupid religion that says you got to believe in something transcendent in order to be happy. I don't get it. Let me have this discussion because it's a deconversion discussion, because a lot of people, when they come out of deconversion, they don't know what they're doing and they're lost and they feel lost, but they also feel this intense sense of relief that they're not under this guilt pressure anymore. The guilt pressure that Christianity in particular provides, and Islam does too. All the Abrahamic religions tend to put this out in spades, but it's like, God damn it, would you knock it off? And you get out from under that, and there's an intense feeling of relief. And most people who discard faith do feel better. It's one of the things I point out often is most people, the getting past the guilt stuff and realizing, the fact that I looked at that girl walking down the aisle and I looked at her butt isn't a sin. It's a natural human thing. Okay. It's like, it's not lust. It's just attraction. We human beings are attracted to what we're attracted to. And, if you've been starving on a desert island for years and suddenly for the next year you eat a lot, that's not gluttony. That's a natural human reaction. It's like Christianity and so many things just take what's human and try to make you feel guilty about being human. Okay. And now that I'm allowed to accept my humanity, I feel a hell of a lot better. It's absolutely better. Okay. I'm not trying to me, it's like I accept the fact that I'm a flawed human being and I'm okay with it. I'm at peace with it. Okay. And I don't need a God to tell me I'm flawed. I just try to be better the next day. You know, it's like I try to, so it's that. Yeah. You know, we'll do rate. See, you got to understand. Um, well, I am reluctant to do Ray Comfort because a lot of the people in chat have this like PTSD about Ray. Like they have a very emotional, I need to go. I don't want to increase anybody's risk of alcoholism when I do Ray Comfort. That tends to happen. So Frank doesn't do that. I was a pastor for 20 years. I have degrees in Bible and theology. Want to try again? Yes. And I want you to understand, John, this is why this channel exists. Because one of the things that people do about you must feel so miserable now that you've left Jesus. And no. So, based on what? I say that, but I'm like, based on what sometimes? So, yes, this is the cycle. It's got you have a non-existent problem that are just generally being human. You're a human being. It's amazing what I get ads for when I watch other videos these days, because it's like any kind of addiction counseling, like they assume because I'm an atheist channel and I search atheist stuff and theist stuff, that I will get ads for every addiction under the sun, from porn to alcohol to gambling. Like there's an automatic assumption that when you leave faith that you delve into these problems. And it's like, no, not really. And then they give you a non-existent solution for it. Whereas the revelation a couple of years ago, when me and my therapist kind of dived into Ed, you're hypersensitivity and you're autistic. Okay. And once that revelation came out, that was more helpful for me in dealing with my real world problems than anything I learned in the 40 years I was in Christianity. Absolutely more helpful, because they were giving me a non-solution to the problem that didn't actually solve the problem. So yeah, I just make mistakes. There's that argument. Oh, there's no such thing as being fallen. That's a made-up term. It's a made-up term by Christians that you're fallen. It's completely made up. Okay, it's a guilt trip tactic. I think it kind of implies intent, that you intended to do something and didn't arrive at it, but that's life. So I have not forgotten. I know what it says, dude. I absolutely know what it says. I studied the Bible. I probably read the Bible at least 20 times. Okay, you're dealing with somebody who's very biblically illiterate. Tread lightly. I know the Bible. I'm literate from stem to stem. Okay, stem to stern. Okay, I got degrees in this shit. Okay, and I'm telling you right now, God didn't tell you anything. You told it to yourself. You're talking to yourself. Okay, and the Bible ain't God's word. It's just the word of a bunch of guys, old guys who wrote a long time ago what they thought about God, and that's it. So. Yes, you're definitely getting close to preaching. Thanks, Martin, for pointing that out. All right, let's go on with Frank here. But to John, yeah, it's I want to just hit this point, that I feel more content now than I ever did, that I'm actually like focused on real things that actually exist instead of some transcendent nonsense. So there's that. Yeah.
The only way to attain peace and contentment in this lifetime and the next is to put Jesus Christ at the top of your priority list. Jesus, who lived a perfect life.
All right, I want to stop there because I challenge whether Jesus exists. Okay. There's definitely a question mark behind his existence because he doesn't write anything himself. And all the people that testify him are anonymous, and the stories about him are anonymous, very similar to Greek mythology in some respects. So there's a lot that goes into the discussion of Jesus. So this is definitely somebody that's saying you can only have peace if you give your heart to Jesus. And I'm sorry, I gave my heart to Jesus, quote unquote, for almost 40 years, pretty close, about 38, 40 years. And I never had peace and contentment. Okay. It was a constant battle against, am I doing this wrong? I'm feeling guilty about this. God's convicting me of this. The whole idea that God's constant conviction, making you uncomfortable, that if you're doing it right, you're suffering. You should be suffering and suffering for Jesus. There's no peace and contentment in that. What a load of shit. Okay. Like literally, this is putting the best window dressing on it. But it's the contradiction of God's going to solve all your problems, but then if you're doing it right, you should be suffering for Jesus. It's like, what the hell? I look at it now and it's like, that is so contradictory. It's like, it just doesn't work. So I just don't see it anymore. So I haven't forgotten anything. Yeah, they are pretty straightforward, at least. They're just straightforwardly wrong. I was not hurt. Okay, I want to clear this one up. Dude, I was hurt over and over for 40 years in Christianity and never thought about leaving it one bit, all for the cause of Christ, all suffering for Jesus. Nothing emotional caused me to leave the faith. That is one of the biggest lies that you believers tell yourself about atheists. I did not leave it. The vast majority of atheists leave the way I did. I kept studying the claims of Christianity and found them to be false. I kept studying the Bible and finding out that it's contradictory and doesn't have any evidence. I did that for well over 30 years from the time I hit Bible college until the time I left. I left for intellectual reasons. Okay. It isn't proven. It's as mythological as the rest of it. I got hurt over and over and over in the church and stayed with it because of emotional attachment to my religion. And that's why you're staying with it too. You have an emotional attachment to your religion. It doesn't make any rational sense, but that's not why you follow it. Okay. I want to be very, very clear about that. Okay. You got that backwards. Okay. I didn't leave the faith because of any emotional thing. Okay. I spent 20 years trying to be an apologist and make it work, but I knew too much. When people ask me why I'm no longer a believer, I tell them I know too much. So I was not, yeah, that's exactly. I was never hurt. I got hurt more after I left the faith by people in the faith than I ever did when I was a Christian. And so I've had a lot of bad experiences in Christianity, but I never gave it up. Okay. Sorry. It's like theists always believe this bullshit that the reason we left the faith is because of hurt. No. There's a lot of hurt that comes from leaving your faith, and there's a lot of emotions to it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But honestly, it pisses me off now. It's like the assumptions that people make about why people become atheists are just people in the faith have to cling emotionally to their beliefs. And so they come up with these emotional reasons of why people left. And it's like, no, that's not the way it works. So yeah, you have some serious PTSD from Ray. Yes, I get it. That's why I don't do Ray very often, because I risk an increased alcoholism in Chad. So I just don't do it. But yeah. Yeah. Yes. And they will do that, Ronald. I want you to be if you mentioned it to somebody else who hasn't heard that you've left the faith, this is the go-to they go to every time. And it's like, no, I've experienced more emotional trauma in the church than I can care to talk about. I have a therapist, for God's sake, for me. Okay. But you know what? I never left the faith over it, and I never left the church over it because of that whole suffering bullshit, that I was suffering for Jesus and I was going to have a bigger crown in heaven because of it. Okay. That's the bullshit line they feed you. And I never left. I stayed with the faith because of emotional reasons. I checked out of it and was trying to find a way to intellectually keep it a long time before I left. And so it's when the emotional reasons dissipated, and it's like, and I could see it clearly without the emotional fog of belief and faith, that's when I left. Okay, that's when I checked out and said, this isn't real. Okay. And I had to spend 2 years in the pulpit, well, 3, one as a deist and 2 as a atheist afterwards, trying to make a career out of something I knew was patently false. And that's a very difficult position to find yourself in. Okay. That was emotionally trying. After I left the faith, hell yeah. Okay. But it was never the reason I left. The reason I left is the Gospels are hearsay. Final conclusion. And so there's no evidence for Jesus that isn't hearsay. Okay, and that's the problem. Okay, it's like maybe a guy named Jesus of Nazareth existed, but there's a whole bunch of stories that keep growing and growing with time. And it's like, and Christianity depends on the resurrection being true. And it's like Paul says, if the resurrection isn't true, we are of all people most miserable, okay, because we've gone through all this shit, okay, and it's all for nothing if there is no resurrection. And he is dead on right with that, okay, he is dead on right. And the problem is, I would have told Paul, yeah, guess what? Okay, the resurrection didn't happen, okay, so you are of all men most miserable, okay. It was the misery of trying to justify my emotional connection that got me out eventually. So, if anything, I think the latter is easy to figure out, but people that still believe Michael just don't want to go there. It's a common thing that I'm emotionally jaded against the faith. Not really. It's more of a like, this is bullshit. It's snake oil, and I don't want to live believing it, and I don't want other people to be bound by it either. That's why I run this channel. I mean, I do a deconversion hangout on Thursdays for that reason. It's like, it's a place for people who are deconverting to get some support. It's the time I have, and I don't know. I don't know. Yes, I think you could make that point too, that they're kind of acknowledging problems too. So it is one of those things. All right, let's keep going, or we'll never get done with Frank here.
And died for the sins of humanity, the one true transcendent being worthy of praise and worship.
Okay, how is Jesus transcendent though? By his definition. I don't know how that sacrifice and rising from the tomb makes him worthy of praise and worship either. Like, it's a bad weekend, but it's not, there was no real, when you really think about it. So Jesus suffers as a human, he dies like a human, but he's doesn't have the long-term consequences of that. The story would be more impressive if they proved he was God ahead of time with good evidence and good testimony and whatever. And then he says, I'm going to make the decision to die and I'm going to stay dead forever so all the rest of you can live. That would be a true, genuine sacrifice on God's part, to have part of him disappear completely. But that's not the story. So, yes, I seems to be a very obvious point, but I get the point you're making. Yes. So, but Frank doesn't seem to realize that he's like, Jesus is the only transcendent being that ever existed, and I'm like, I thought he lived as a human. Doesn't that make him kind of material? Are we taking a Gnostic approach to things now, Frank? See, this is the earlier discussion I was getting in with Cranky Elder God about presuppositionalist apologetics. But doesn't it seem like a lot of Christians are embracing like Gnosticism too? Like, Jesus wasn't perfect because he's this lower God that becomes human aspect of it. I thought that was a heresy at one point, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the heresies will become the new doctrines in the future. So I don't know. All right, come on, Frank.
Other things are certainly deserving of love and attention, but if any of those things exceed Jesus, you will never experience the contentment and satisfaction you truly seek. So,
I don't know if that last part is even possible. Is it truly possible to be 100% content all the time? And I don't think contentment is necessarily a good thing to have all the time. Like, if you were constantly content, would you ever have a desire to improve? I don't know. So, yeah. Yes, very bad commercial. Yeah, it's a kind of a commercial for the faith. You're never going to achieve the contentment you seek. That is a sales pitch. Oh my God, is that last 5 seconds was just a straight up sales pitch for Jesus. An invisible product, a transcendent product that you can't touch, that has all of its promises to be filled in a future date. Sign up here, go to your local church, tithe, go to services, and do the things. And we promise and swear that you will have an afterlife that will be better than your friends who doesn't believe. Am I missing anything in the commercial sales pitch in this one? Very well done in the fact that he got it done in a single sentence. But, this is props I will give Frank. He's got a lot of stuff in this short video in a very short amount of time, very compact. The bullshit is put all in one nice, neat little box. I will give him that. But it's holy shit. Talk about claims without evidence. I'm sorry, I don't ever recall experiencing this contentment of which they speak all the time. It happened from time to time, but it was the fact that my life was good or that Jesus was in it. I don't think it was Jesus. So yes, I've always felt, now I look back at heaven and it's like, heaven is boring as shit. Contentment is boring as shit. Okay, I don't know how human beings exist being content with their situation all the time. Where would be the desire to improve? Now, Christians will say, oh, well, once you get in disciple, you got to grow the fruits of the Spirit. You got to do these things. You got to do these spiritual disciplines and it'll improve your life. But if I'm already, by accepting Jesus and putting him number one priority in my life, I'm content, then why would I need any of the rest of that shit? It's like they constantly have to go through the loop. So, yes, why sign up for these? Different God for every person. Yes. Why do we sign up for these problems? Yes. I don't know. But here we go.
what are you worshiping?
All right. I think that's actually the actual end of the video, so I'm going to pull it down. But what are you worshiping is his final question. So I have to bring it up, guys. Who are you worshiping? I can tell you what I worship now. Nothing. I give a lot of respect to a lot of people when they act respectfully. But I don't think worship is not something I do anymore. Not in the way he's talking about it. I don't know that I worship anything. And that's a situation he does not want to accept as an apologist. Okay, he just doesn't want to accept the fact that there are people out there that say, I don't think anything deserves that level of respect. I just don't feel that worship, it's like I say, I don't think faith is a virtue, and worship involves a lot of faith. And to me, it just kind of punts that kind of contentment, just kind of punts human problems. We'll deal with them later in the new heavens and the new earth, or we'll deal with them in, God will fix it at the end. And it's like always punting the problems either to somebody else or down the road. It's always kicking the can, and it never actually like does anything. You worship the benevolent dictator of the channel. All right, fair enough. I'm kidding. I don't know. Maybe we'll set up Fangs as our resident deity. I think he deserves it. I mean, come on. Look at this face. Look at this face. Does not Fangs deserve your worship? Oops, I made a mistake. An honest deity that admits he made some mistakes. I can see it. So, but yes, I can see that, I guess. But I agree with you, Michael. Worshiping is a very odd behavior. It's a really weird thing to do when you look at it rationally. It's almost like it's not rational. So try to be thankful for your food like the Japanese do. All right. Yeah, see, I'm with you. I don't think I'm worshiping anything or anyone. And I don't think if I prioritize something in my life that I'm worshiping that. I think I'm just putting that as a priority because it needs to be a priority at that moment. I mean, one of my grandkids goes into the hospital, on an emergency thing because they had an accident or something. That becomes my priority. Okay. Money don't matter. My job don't matter. Sorry, my channel don't matter at that moment. There's something important to me that goes number one on my list, and I'm there. Okay. Moment that's over, the other priorities come back in. And I don't think people realize that you can have shifting priorities like that, and it's okay. It's just bloody okay. Okay. Just Angela, you just worship Angela and you don't bother with her. I can understand the worship though. So, yeah, I think George Carlin had a good point. I mean, he didn't worship, according to him, he didn't worship the sun. He just, he worshiped the sun, I guess, because it, unlike some other deities, you can see the sun. It kind of puts it on a higher level. Oh, the fangs. Yes. I worship. He's a chubby god. Fangs is awesome. One of the best creations I've ever seen is Fangs. Nothing like combining Count Dracula and Bugs Bunny. Yes, George Carlin said a lot of great things. The Sun and Joe Pesci, yes. Joe Pesci gets shit done. That's why. So, when you pray to Joe Pesci, you get the same 50-50, and it's actually not that good. So, we do have a cranky elder god around here. But he doesn't give a shit if you worship him or not. The brains, according to him, taste just as good either way. So, it's all the same. So, you got to understand the elder gods have different priorities, and being worshipped is not one of them. There's one good thing about the elder gods that I respect. Okay, they don't give a shit if you acknowledge their power and authority. They're very content in their own power. Okay, like they don't see too many things as threats, and so it's like, I don't need you to worship me. I don't need you to genuflect to me. I don't need you to do any of that shit. Okay. So, let's see. I think respecting somebody or something I should go unless it's friendship or romantic. Yeah, I can see that. I can see like a relationship becoming a priority because you're romantically involved. Your marriages can definitely hit the priority list a lot at the top, but even that takes a back seat the moment you head off to work. It's like you can't give it your full attention anymore. Okay, and I think that's the issue. But it's like I don't know. Yes, I think there is that aspect along a lot of parents. I mean, I'll give you, John, there's some shitty parents out there that don't prioritize the kids, but I do think prioritizing children in the sense of giving them the tools to assess something for themselves and then standing back when they get older and letting them do it. Okay. I think that's to me, children are definitely a priority. And I can tell you that the religious people know that for sure. I mean, we're joking about it, but look at what Mormonism has produced. And a lot of that is about procreation. Let's be fair. Okay. It really is. Okay. It's this, religions constantly, a lot of religions have that no birth control, have as many kids as possible kind of thing. Um, and so that's how their religion continues to survive, because you can have 10 kids and even if 3 of them don't believe after you're done, 7 of them do, so, but yeah, yes, there is that. Yes. Joe Pesci show. Yes. Good times. Good times. I don't worship anything. And when I went to church for a couple of Sundays, it felt too much like a cult and was very creepy. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. See, even people who don't have children understand that children are the priority. They're the future. And so at some point in your adult life, you kind of realize it ain't about you anymore. Okay. It's about the future. What am I passing on, to the next generation? Some of us have been taught not to give a shit, but I think the rest of us that still have human empathy, a very important trait, despite Elon's assertion to the contrary. It keeps society bound together from spinning out of control. Um, I don't know, having the empathy enough to look at kids and go, hey, I hope they have a better world than I do. Okay, in some way, shape, or form. I think that's a very noble thing. So I would say you're correct. As somebody who did Christian education work, Kyle, that is definitely was my jam at the time. It was like, how do I get future people that will stay in the church? Um, and it's an insidious tactic, by the way, Kyle, because if you get the kids, half the time you also got the adults because they're like, oh, you're really ministering to my kids. This is a great church to come to. And basically what it is we took their kids away from them for an hour and indoctrinated them while they enjoyed a service or stayed at home and enjoyed a beer. It's by focusing on kids, we gave them those babysitting moments. So there's that. Yes. Children are a blessing of the Lord. Blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them, likening children to arrows. I've always loved that one. Don't get me wrong. I do find my grandkids enjoyable people. They're enjoyable people to hang around. They make more sense than most adults, quite honestly. Children have that kind of innocent view of the world that sometimes is very profound. And so I do recognize that. That's possible. I think there's a natural human empathy that it's like a muscle. You have to exercise it or it grows weak. Um, I think there's a base human level of stuff, and what gets emphasized, is pretty good. There's a little bit of wisdom from some things that say, it depends on what you feed and what you water. And kids are a lot like that. I mean, I feel sorry for all the kids in this picture, but it's funny. But yes, I do agree with you though that kids playing with each other and learning social skills together. I do worry about the future of society that people have allowed social media and stuff to raise their kids instead of like actually doing it. Taking the kids to the park and things like that. So I guess I'm of a generation where our parents we're definitely not helicopter parents. Okay. I lost track of the times from the time I was 10 to 12 that I was out with my friends all night long. And the only thing that mattered to my parents is I was home before 9 on a school night and 11 on a non-school night. So make sure you go to Sunday school and shit. So there's that. Oh. Oh, they're cute. Oh, I gotta save these. Here. All right. Here, let me another image to load up here. I'll load the other one. What do you think, folks? Is this a new emoji? There's one. There's another one too. But I'm busy putting it up, saving it so I can use it later. And there's that one. Here, let me add the other one, and you can see that one too. Oh, did it save yet? Oh, there it is. Starting to get an emoji file, guys. How about that one too? Talking about crying onions because Fangs ate an onion, one of their brothers and sisters. Oh, but yes. So what are you thinking? I think we got a couple new emojis. I'll throw those in there. Because I have over 60 or 50 members, I think I can have 12 now. So, but yeah, we were struggling with the emoji, but it's like, I think we can do the onions, and then it'll refer back to the photo. And I don't know, to our lovely artwork. So, but I killed Earl. You are amazing, my dear. Outstanding. Head pats all the way around. If you need a head pat tomorrow, I'll give you that too. So yes, but yes, I don't know. This one's great. Like a crying onion is absolutely priceless. Crying baby onion, but the binky one, oh my goodness. I can do both. I got plenty of room for emojis right now, so I'll probably get those linked up. So we'll have them next stream, hopefully. So it won't take me long to put them in, but I wish they would show up on StreamYard though. For some reason they don't. You love the baby tooth, yes. That's great. Oh my goodness. Yes, always appreciated. I'll pay you one in advance too for this one. This one was great. Girl, this picture is so good. I'm going to have to start merch because I want this wrapped around a cup. I really do. I want a coffee cup with this on it. So, oh my goodness. But yes, there's our photo, our tribute to Mormonism. And we have a few offshoot emojis from that. The binky onion with tears. You can see the tears right above the binky. And then we also have our crying onion. So, so Romney. This is why I come to chat. You guys are so entertaining. You guys are great. I love my chat. You are funny people, and I appreciate that so much. But no hat reveal. We didn't make it. Yes, it might be a great Easter present. I don't know. I'll have to see what it takes to set all that up. I've got so much other business to handle this weekend. Like I haven't done my taxes yet, so and I got a bunch of other things to do. So, but yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of like this one. The Binky with the tears is great. The Crying Onion is great. This is great. I don't know what to do. Fangs is obviously from Outer Darkness. Okay, there we go. Fair enough. But yeah, he literally early has a look on his face of, oops, I think I ate one of your brothers or sisters. Yeah, so, yes. But yeah, but he does have that look of, oops. And I love that. Fangs is going to have his own misadventures, I think. So. All right, folks. Well, I'm going to call it a night. Been great. Didn't quite get to the hat reveal, so I'll hold on to that for next week. I am changing things up, though. Well, I'm going to be live streaming Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays. That's going to be my regular schedule. And then I'm going to try to have the open days be places where I drop videos. So there's that aspect of it. So thanks, everybody, for making that possible. The live stream support is still solid, just not quite reaching goals this week, but we'll work on it next week. It's okay with me. I do want to get the videos back in because they get me views and watch hours and subscribers. And so, but thanks everybody for stopping that. So yes, Rut-row. Yes. Rut-row. Yes. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. Love everyone. You guys have a great rest of your weekend. Thanks, everybody. And as always, live your best life, guys. You only get one go around and then it's over. So make sure you're taking all your time, money, and opportunities and spending them on yourself, the people you love and care for, to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do. And don't waste them on the trappings of religion and faith and belief in Jesus and all the stuff that Frank says will make your life more contented, because that's a dead end. I speak from experience. And as always, everybody, thanks for stopping by, and I will definitely catch you all next time.